So let's see. We should get started. It was sunny a minute ago. It's not now, so let's dive right in. Today, we want to talk a little bit about our nuisance properties and some of the eyesores around town, and in particular, some ones that have been kind of a clarion call for a lot of problematic issues right here. And so we want to talk about these two 7-Eleven locations the council's been working on, our office has been working on, including the one on San Mateo and the one over down on Central. Now, these properties have been going through a process through our office and under council resolution, and we want to just highlight first a little bit about the history. Over 1,000 311 calls to these properties on Central and Solano. APDs responded 733 times. AFRs responded to a combined 189 times. Now, these properties were designated by the City Council, thanks to Councilor Davis, to have the owners really brought to the table for big changes. And so what they have agreed to do, which is the first time, at least in our knowledge, and we hope is going to make a big difference, is they've actually agreed to ban minis and also pints. This is a great example of, I think, the one Albuquerque spirit from the private sector. They're saying, you know what, we're all in on it. We know we need to do more in law enforcement and code enforcement, everything we can do, but we also need people to help us. And thankfully, 7-Eleven has agreed to do that. And so they're no longer selling minis and pints. They've also agreed to police their area, that's the wrong term, to clean up their area from needles and trash on a daily basis. They're also going to go through some additional training to not serve inebriated folks at those locations. So we think this is actually a step we hope other companies that we deal with, especially major national chains, can also take just at certain problematic locations. This is just, again, for those troubled areas that have been issues for decades, even when I was a city councilor here. So when I was a state senator here. And so we have our folks who put this together here, our area commander, as well as our planning department and our fire department who works on code enforcement issues as well. So due to the rain, I'm going to quickly hand it over to the councilor of this area who led this charge, city council and council president. Let's give him a round of applause for that. Pat Davis.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to everybody here. I also want to acknowledge and just point out some of the folks from South San Pedro neighborhood, Parkland Hills, Nob Hill, who really helped us get this going. And I know it's raining, so we'll get to the basic piece here. You know, for years, we've been using the city's nuisance authority to go after abandoned properties. We've taken, under this administration now, more than 50 properties have been tagged for extra enforcement, working with owners. But for the city to go after an existing business was extraordinary. And that's why we took this process through the city council for public hearings. Because our neighbors, quite frankly, were saying we want to get organized to build a better neighborhood. We want to be better neighbors, and we expect our businesses and our community to do the same. And although a little reluctant up front, and again, uncertain because no one had been through this process, I want to acknowledge that at the end of the day, these two convenience stores, under new ownership, new management, came forward and said, we're willing, as the mayor said, we're willing to do what's right. We want to be a good neighbor. We're willing to do something every day that works in partnership with our neighborhood. Identifying the minis, for example, and alcohol contributing to these issues. We worked with the State Alcohol Enforcement Division to ensure that we had a good plan. And more importantly, I want to acknowledge it took all of these departments and all of these neighborhoods and public safety committees at the neighborhood level to really sit down, look at the issues that are impacting their neighborhood most. And in these two neighborhoods, we identified the two properties that were taking up most of our public safety resources. And rightly so. Our neighbors said that if they're waiting too long on a police call for service for someone at their home, for a long time, odds are the officers or the firefighters or code enforcement were busy at one of these two locations. And just in the last month that we've started to get this process together, we've seen fewer and fewer calls, and that shows real progress. And so it's a partnership, as the mayor said. Public sector, private sector, neighborhoods coming together, neighborhood by neighborhood, to take ownership, to be responsible, to work together to solve these issues. And I really want to acknowledge the neighbors who really helped us do this. It's been more than 6 months to really have these hearings, to sit down, to work with the businesses, to build better relationships. And as the mayor said, This is extraordinary. No one can remember the last time we worked with an existing business to come up with a better neighbor policy to keep them from having to go to court that could have forced them to close, put people out of business, and left an abandoned property. So we're excited. We're optimistic. I know our neighbors are going to hold the 7-Elevens and these convenience stores to the rules, and they're going to call us when they need something. But again, we ought to acknowledge and credit that it took everybody to do this. And I really want to appreciate the mayor for stepping up and saying we want to work on this together and figure out a way to use the extraordinary power we do have when we need it, and to leverage it correctly and well. And to City Legal, who helped us sort of figure out how to do this in a unique way. So thank you to all of you for working and help our neighborhoods today. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so by the time we're finished, it's going to be sunny outside. But any questions? We didn't have much more, but of course, can take questions.
Why minis and pints?
So it's minis, right?
I believe that's correct. Yeah, and of course, we'll send out the. Nope. Security guards are not yet part of that agreement. The rest of that's true. It is minis and pints.
Yeah. Why did you target minis and pints? What is it about the clientele that buys minis and pints that is problematic?
So, as someone who has bought minis and pints before, I want to be clear that it is just in the majority of the challenges in these locations is people buying these sizes for almost immediate consumption, like consumption right outside or right in the neighborhood. And so that's why we're targeting that size. And it's also an experiment. You know, we're going to see if this works better. And it may not. We hope it will. And I think the evidence, as the neighbors can talk to you about, are just the bottles of minis all over around these locations. And so we're kind of just using that approach as a sign where we should start.
And you were saying there were 1,000 calls. Is that the two locations combined? And in what period of 1,000 and how long?
So from January 2018 to April 2019, over 1,000 311 calls. That was just Central and Solano.
What about, I want to hear Catherine and...
Okay. Is it both? Oh, it's Central and, okay, so that's both locations. Yeah, yeah. And that was, APD responded 733 times. AFR had to come for down and out situations, 189. And I think that was in the resolution, or at least in it, yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys think this will actually work? All these independent changes, do you think they'll actually make a big difference?
Well, our goal is to make a difference. We'll see if that's true. It's worth trying. Our administration and council, we want to do everything we can. We think this is actually a relatively new idea that has been around a long time. It's just no one has been able to put it together. So we're going to try it, and hopefully it will make a difference.
So what protocols are in place as far as accountability?
That is a good part, and we've been talking to them about that. Do you want to talk about the accountability aspect of it? That we're going to be checking on it? It's okay if not.
Sure.
There,
In what manner we will
so
do that?
this is a part of a settlement agreement. This isn't just like a handshake. And so the accountability is really through our legal team, and then of course our inspectors who will check on it, and then work with them to hold them accountable to it. But we have a signed legal settlement, so that's pretty good, I think, on the accountability front. Yeah.
Can I add, Mayor? Just
Yeah.
Melinda, to your point, this started because of community. This started because of neighborhood and community calls to 311 and 911, and working with APD's crime prevention specialists and AFR. And we built the case based on that, and so we're going to be monitoring that. We're counting on residents to call us when they see something that's wrong. We as a city have made a commitment to respond and work proactively with the business to address other issues that might be happening. But first, we need to know if neighbors are seeing as many or fewer. And so I appreciate your neighborhood has been great about the one on Catherine. Nob Hill's been good about the other. And we know those same folks are going to keep calling. We just hope fewer times.
Yeah, what are the neighborhoods that have been affected by this?
The ones right behind you, South San Pedro, which is Khadijah Bottom, Parkland Hills, which is the two that neighbor here on San Mateo, and then Nob Hill for the one on Solano. And they
Elder
work
Homestead.
together. Yep, and Elder Homestead on the bottom.
Sure. I'm happy to answer yours. Let me just check any more from the media, just because sometimes they got to roll out. Yes, sir.
I just want to say, in Nob Hill, we've been struggling with this problem for 25 years, and everyone said, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can do. And our council stood up and got us something, and you stood up behind you, and your administration was great. season.
Thank you so much for putting up with this for so long, and hopefully it will help. All right, guys, if there's anything else, just ask after. Thanks.